Imagine the fear, imagine a sunny morning. Birds are singing, children laugh, then the earth trembles. A dragon's roar echoes across the water, but it's not a dragon. Longships appear. These are no mere fishing vessels. They are sleek instruments of war, packed with fierce Viking warriors, their eyes hungry for plunder. This was the terror that gripped the heart of Europe for centuries. This was the Viking Age. From the icy fjords of Scandinavia, Viking raiders spread like a tidal wave. They pillaged and plundered their way across the British Isles, Ireland and mainland Europe. Few could withstand their ferocity, yet one kingdom stood firm. The Franks, under the Carolingian dynasty, would prove a formidable challenge to Viking ambition. This is the story of how the Franks, against all odds, halted the Viking advance and ultimately prevented them from conquering the land that would become France. To understand this struggle, we must first understand the Vikings. These were not mindless barbarians. They were skilled navigators, fearless warriors, and shrewd traders. Their motives for raiding were complex. Scandinavia, their homeland, was harsh and unforgiving. Resources were scarce. Overpopulation strained their limited farmland. For many Vikings, raiding was a way of life, a way to secure resources and carve out a better existence. Yet their culture also glorified strength, courage, and the pursuit of glory. Viking sagas are filled with tales of daring raids, epic battles, and legendary heroes. They sought wealth, yes, but also fame and the favor of the gods. This potent combination of pragmatic need and cultural drive made them a force to be reckoned with. The first Viking raids on Francia, the precursor to modern-day France, began in the late 8th century. These early incursions were opportunistic. Coastal monasteries, rich and poorly defended, were easy targets. The Vikings, masters of river navigation, sailed their longships far inland, striking swiftly and disappearing with their plunder before any organized resistance could be mounted. These early raids sent shockwaves through the Frankish kingdoms. The speed and ferocity of the Viking attacks left them reeling. This was a new kind of warfare, one for which they were ill-prepared. The Vikings, it seemed, could strike anywhere, anytime. No one was safe. As the 9th century progressed, the Viking raids grew bolder and more frequent. They penetrated further inland, attracted by the wealth of larger cities and monasteries. In 845 AD, a Viking fleet led by the legendary Ragnar Lodbrok, a figure shrouded in myth and folklore, sailed up the Seine River. Their target, Paris, the heart of the Frankish kingdom. The siege of Paris in 845 was a watershed moment. For the first time, the Vikings faced significant resistance. The city walls held. Ragnar's forces, unable to breach the defences, resorted to a brutal siege. The Franks, though outnumbered, fought bravely. After a tense standoff, the Vikings eventually lifted the siege, but not before extorting a hefty ransom from the beleaguered Parisians. The siege of Paris was a wake-up call for the Frankish rulers. They realized that the Viking threat was not going away. It demanded a coordinated and sustained response. Under the leadership of kings like Charles the Bald and Charles the Simple, the Franks implemented a series of measures to bolster their defenses and resist the Viking onslaught. Fortifications were strengthened. Cities and monasteries, once easy targets, were now ringed by sturdy walls, manned by garrisons of soldiers. Bridges were fortified or destroyed to hinder the Vikings' advance along rivers. The Franks also began to build a fleet of their own, realizing that to defeat the Vikings at their own game, they needed to challenge their dominance at sea. By the early 10th century, a sort of stalemate had emerged. The Franks, with their improved defences, were better equipped to resist Viking raids. The Vikings, though still a potent force, found it increasingly difficult to penetrate deep into Frankish territory. Both sides were weary of constant warfare. This set the stage for a pivotal event, the Treaty of Saint-Clair-sur-Epte in 911 AD. This treaty, signed between the Viking leader Rollo and the Frankish king Charles the Simple, marked a turning point in Viking-Frankish relations. In exchange for Rollo's allegiance and his commitment to defend the Frankish kingdom from other Viking raiders, Charles granted him control of a large territory in northern France. This region would become known as Normandy, the land of the Northmen. The Treaty of Saint-Clair-sur-Epte had far-reaching consequences. It effectively neutralized the Viking threat in the Frankish heartland. The Vikings, once feared raiders, were now integrated into the fabric of Frankish society. Over time, they assimilated, adopting the French language, customs, and Christian faith. The legacy of the Vikings in France, however, extends far beyond their eventual assimilation. Their raids had a profound impact on the political and social landscape of Europe. They contributed to the decline of the Carolingian Empire, paving the way for the rise of new feudal lords and kingdoms. They also left an indelible mark on the culture, language, and genetics of France and other parts of Europe. The Vikings may not have conquered France, but they left their mark in ways that resonate to this day.